Hello and welcome to the Decrypting Crypto podcast. It is September 18th, 2025. Had to have a little look there and double check the date on me. Good start. And this is the Off-Chain, your weekly recap of the biggest stories in the crypto space. I'm Matt House Barbie, and as always, I'm here with Austin Knight. How you doing, Austin?
Doing well, Matt. I rode up the great bonk surge of the last week.
Oh yeah,
60% in 1 week, man. Holy shit.
and that is a truly phenomenal chart to look at.
Oh yeah, it's a thing of beauty. No, I'm just
Let
kidding.
me
I wasn't smart enough to buy into bonk when it mattered, and so unfortunately, I have missed out on bonk yet again.
generational wealth.
Yeah.
Let's even let me get this chart up so we can have a little look at this. Let's see what wealth we missed out on. I think I had the soul chart up here, so let me just go into bonk. All right, let's look at. Oh wow, not so nice there, but yeah, I mean it's a beautiful looking chart. All right. Well, before we go and dive into all of this, what we have to cover is the fact that the Fed made their rate cut decision yesterday, and they cut by 25 bips. Now, going into this, I know we've been talking a lot about the rate cut, what it could mean, and what we were expecting. I think last week we both said it's highly unlikely, like the nearest to a zero chance that we could have put on this as like a no rate cut. So that obviously played out. The way I would characterize this cut is I would call this like a mildly hawkish cut, and I think the
Hmm.
markets responded accordingly at the time. Now we'll come on to like what's happened. So we cut by 25 bips. There was only one dissenting governor, and that was the new Governor Myron, who is one of the first active governors of the Fed that also holds a place in government at the same time. This is the first time that's happened in a long time, in decades. And obviously is Trump's man. He dissented and was the only person on the 12-person committee to vote 50 bips, which in
Nice.
itself, I was quite surprised at, to be honest. I thought we were going to have a few more 50 bips. I thought maybe we'd get
Hmm.
that from Walla. We didn't. But it was an 11-1, basically a unanimous vote for 25 bips. Now, we saw immediately in the aftermath of this, crypto sold off a bit. Equity markets sold off a fair bit. The NASDAQ 100 recording its first loss in God knows how long. It's had an unbelievable streak. But why, we had the rate cut. Why? Well, the thing that is really what everyone was looking at here, considering how locked in a rate cut was the dot plot. And for many people here, maybe you've heard the dot plot. Some people will know what this is. Some people don't know what this is. What the dot plot shows is basically on a chart, a view of where each of the 12 governors voted for where they believe rates will be at or should be at, in their personal opinion, at the end of the year, 2026, 27, 28. I don't even know why they do 27, 28. I mean, 2026 is
Yeah.
tough enough. But, they always do this. And they do this not just for where rates will be at, but where they believe inflation will be at, where they believe job growth, unemployment rate will be at, and a few others. And we get all of this information. And it's good for us to see this for a couple of, probably three reasons. One, how has this changed since the last FOMC meeting. So in June, how have things changed? And two, where do we believe like the median is? Well, where is the median? We don't actually believe where the median is. Where is the median, and what do we think that says about the future of rate cuts across this group? And then three, what is the distribution of the dots, right? Is everyone kind of leaning towards a similar outcome, which you would then increase the probability of that outcome coming true? Do we see huge dispersion in the outcomes, which would mean actually there's no clear consensus, and it creates a little bit more uncertainty for us, and also would probably signal that people really don't know what to expect, right? So I'll bring this up because I think I, as a nerd on economics, look at this quite a lot, as I'm sure you have no doubts about, Austin. But I'm sure most people don't look at this because it can be a bit of a dense dog. But let's go into the easy thing first, right? Let's go into the actual dot plot that we're talking about here, right? So looking at the dot plot, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit and make this easier. This is the FOMC governors' assessments of where they believe the rate will be at the end of 2025, 26, 27, 28, and then longer run, which God knows what that means. And what we've got here is like the percentage points. So we're at between 400 and 425 bips, right? So 4 to 4.25%, which is in this area here, right? Where we see this first cluster of dots. Now, at the year end 2025, one thing I thought was interesting is one word for it. There is one dot above the current rate. Mm-hmm. One of the governors believes that we will need to, I guess, hike before the end of the year. Kind of bizarre. One person voted that we should be all the way down between 2.75 and 3, so under 3%. That would be like, wow, if we'd have done what they were voting for at the time is like a 150 bips by the end of the year. No prizes for who that was, right? It's clearly Myron. And where we see the biggest cluster in amongst this is kind of between the 350 and 375 mark. The median is here at 375 to 4. So that would indicate 2 25 bips rate cuts based on the median, right? And things can obviously change quite a lot. If we didn't have this single dot here, you know, we'd probably say, and actually I should make a correction. This person didn't believe that we should have a rate hike. They believed that there should have been no rate cuts for until the end of the year, because this was done obviously before the rate decision. The grouping for the end of the year is somewhat like, it's not too disparate. You would probably expect, if this single dot up here wasn't there and this single dot down here wasn't there, you'd say, okay, the group's pretty well aligned. And I think they somewhat are. Look at 2026. I'll read 2026 and it literally tells me no one has a clue what they're doing. Yeah. 2027, I think hilariously does the outline of a downward arrow, which I think they've just done to mess with us. And conversely, the longer run just shows a double upward arrow, which I also like. Someone's just fucking with us here, and they're just like, you know, what should we throw in here? Let's just mess up some. There's going to be a smiley face next time, but yeah. So I think like this was where we were looking at. Okay, that dot plot. It's signaling like somewhat hawkishness, but is an improvement on what we thought in June, right? Where the median had shifted up one level. Now, there's some conflicting stuff in here. I don't want to get too dense because I know there's a lot of data, but here's the TLDR. So what the Fed is saying is that, okay, they think the median rate is like okay, we're not going to do the ranges, but like 3.6% by the end of 2025. In June, they said 3.9. So that's come down.
Mm-hmm.
They, compared to June, their projections for unemployment rate, PCE inflation, and core PCE have all remained the same. Yet they're saying, actually, we think GDP is going to get a little bit better. It's going to get 20 bits better than what we thought in June. So they think the economy is going to do a bit better. Inflation is still where it's where they thought before, which was that it's a problem. The unemployment rate is going to maintain at its current levels, yet they think they should cut more. It doesn't make sense to me in some of the. So you can kind of see like, and these are all medians, but where things get really tricky to figure out. But I do think like 2025 and 2026, they're like